So, hello everyone. Welcome all to the webinar AI Innovation in Small Audiovisual Archives, Challenges and Opportunities. This is the third webinar organized on the occasion of the World Day for Audiovisual Heritage by the International Council of Archives, Photographic and Audiovisual Archives Working Group. And my name is Sanita Grīna. I am a senior archivist at the Latvian State Archive of Audiovisual Documents, and I will be the moderator for today's discussion. Today's discussion is dedicated to the very current issue of the possibilities of using AI tools in archival contexts for purposes such as facial recognition, transcription, image search, etc. And specifically using AI tools in the context of smaller audiovisual archives, where we tend to face different constraints, financial, technological, and human resource related. So I hope this will be a very fruitful and fascinating discussion to everyone. Let me first introduce the participants of today's discussion. So today, and maybe everybody can say hi, the participants, I mean. So first we have my colleague Natālija Lāce, who is an expert at the Latvian State Archive of Audiovisual Documents. She specializes in the description of audiovisual collections. Her responsibilities include compiling archive fonts histories, maintaining databases, and improving archival systems. And lately, she has played a very important role in developing strategies for integrating AI solutions in archival daily processes and daily work. And
hello. Sorry.
Hi, Natālija.
Hi.
So then we have from Lithuania, Lithuanian Central State Archive, Jolle Stimperīte, who has been working in archive since 1995, and since 1999 has been the head of audiovisual documents preservation department, and now head of the film department. And she is responsible for management of different national and international projects, MIDAS, EFG, Uscreen, XL, Ekinas, and others. And Jolle is a chair of Lithuanian Archivists Association, as well as a board member of the Baltic Audiovisual Archival Council and member of Cinema Culture Association. Hi, Jolle.
Hello, everyone.
Okay, then from Estonian Film Archives, we have Aap Tepper, who is a head of digitization department and oversees the digitization process of films, photos, sound, and audiovisual documents. And Aap has a background in photography and has managed large-scale digitization projects. Is also a visual artist, and as such, he explores the intersections of memory, space, and photographic representation. Hi, Aap.
Hello.
Okay, nice to hear from you. So next we have Dr. Mila Oiva from the University of Turku in Finland, who is a adjunct professor of cultural history and an expert of Russian and Polish cultural history and digital research methods. So she has explored the themes through a variety of case studies, ranging from the 19th century global news flows called war-era transnational information circulation between Poland, the Soviet Union, and France, as well as the contemporary themes. And the current research focus is on computational analysis of Soviet and Estonian newsreels. Hello, Mila.
Hello, I'm super excited to be here today. Thanks.
And finally, we also have Matthias Prim from the Meemoo, the Flemish Institute for the Archives, who has been working in digital preservation for over 10 years and lately has been also involved in several projects regarding the use of artificial intelligence to create descriptive metadata on audiovisual and photo documents. Hello, Matthias.
Hi, good afternoon.
Okay, so I will also want to say that today's session will consist of two main parts. First, we'll listen to Natālija's presentation on our archives experiences trying out several AI tools. And that will be followed by a discussion. And at the end, we'll have also a space for viewer questions. So if during the presentation and the discussion you have any comments or thoughts, you can share them in the chat. But if you have any questions, then please write them in the Q&A box. And if you would like to ask a question to a specific speaker, then please mention their name with the question. Yeah, so I think that's all for now. And Natālija, go ahead.
Thank you, Sanita, for introduction. I will now share my screen. So I hope that everyone sees my presentation. In my presentation, I will briefly introduce the archive and share some statistical data related to its collection with a primary focus on the archive's experience using artificial intelligence tools in managing archival documents. And I will conclude with a demonstration of the archives developed the multimodal similarity search prototype. Each of these efforts to integrate AI tools into archives operations reflects a unique set of challenges and thematic issues which, in my opinion, are essential and relevant for all of us to consider when exploring AI integration for working with audiovisual documents. The Latvian State Archive of Audiovisual Documents was founded in 1963 and became a structural unit of the National Archives of Latvia in 2011. It is the only institution in Latvia that's specializing in preservation, digitalization, description, and promotion of photo, film, and sound documents. Most of documents were described during the Soviet era, corresponding to the ideology and censorship of that time. And despite the large number of described documents, only 20% are accurately described, while the remaining descriptions require revision. It is also important to note that although these documents have been described, they don't have digital copies, which significantly complicates their accessibility and use by the public. And the archives database contains only 385,000 documents without distinguishing between document types. Our biggest challenges are an increasing number of documents and limited human resources. Over the past 5 years, more than 1 million photographs, 7,000 audio recordings, 7,000 video, and 5,000 other format documents, such as posters and aeroplane sheets, have been submitted to the archive. This increasing number of accepted documents clearly reflects a significant growth in archives collection. And within this significant increase in the number of documents, the percentage of described documents relative to undescribed ones decreases each year. And currently, only 9 people are working on document description, while 4 are responding for digitalization. And based on current estimates, it will take over 100 years to describe and digitalize the existing collection. And considering that the number of documents continues to grow each year, the outlook appears quite bleak. And it has become clear that archive must explore the use of various technological tools in daily operations, with artificial intelligence being seen as potential major solution. So the first step in using AI tools in the daily work of the archive was a cooperation with developers from Latvian IT company Noskurs in 2020. The company was developing a facial recognition program for photo and audiovisual documents, but even though authors were from Latvia, their facial recognition system was built on facial features from all around the world. Therefore, it was quite inaccurate, and training with our archive documents of already recognized persons was necessary, ideally requiring at least 5 clear photo documents of the faces from different angles, which were not always readily available. We tested the program by describing photos of the Latvian parliament, which formed a collection of more than 12,000 documents. This collection seemed highly suitable as it primarily contained portraits and group photos. The initial dataset from NOSCOS consisted of approximately 800 photos of Latvian parliament members linked to their names and surnames. This diagram illustrates how the NOSCOS facial recognition system operated within the archive database. Upon adding a new photograph, the file was sent via API to the NOSCOS system, which returned results identifying the persons, including key metadata and confidence score. As you can see in the image, the confidence score shows that since for different persons facial features are similar, multiple persons might appear with different confidence score. So to identify the correct person, this result had to be confirmed manually. For widely recognized persons, verification was relatively easy, but for lesser known individuals, extensive search was often required prior to confirmation, and it was consuming a significant amount of time. Additionally, there was no guarantee that manually recognized persons will be consistently identified across other photographs. It is also important to note that once a person was manually identified and approved, the NOSCOS API triggered a train function, so consequently archive employees invested substantial time identifying individuals and training the NOSCOS system, enabling its developers, possibly, to market this as a more accurate tool for other institutions, while archive didn't receive any compensation for this and in fact paid for its use. The implementation of the NOSCOS AI system could somewhat accelerate the process of identifying individuals in archival photos and audiovisual documents, and with regular training, the system's accuracy could be improved, making it more reliable for future identifications. Its compatibility with other systems through API also allowed for seamless incorporation into the existing database, minimizing the need for major upgrades. As a positive aspect, the system could be customized to meet specific local needs, enhancing its relevance and usability within the archive's unique context. However, certain challenges accompanied these benefits, and the biggest challenge was that each identification required manual verification, which was time-consuming, particularly for individuals who were less documented. Archive staff had to invest significant time in training the system, placing a strain on limited resources. Furthermore, dependency of an external provider like NOSCOS for core functionality mean that the archive had limited control over updates, improvements, and long-term support, impacting overall autonomy in system maintenance. Our second attempt with integrating already accessible AI tools in our database was at the beginning of this year, when the archive was contacted by a representative from the company Latvian, offering a demonstration of their AI image and video search tool with possibility to transcribe sound documents such as sound recordings and soundtracks from video files in Latvian. This AI tool provided quite impressive results. However, the search process was executed on Latvian servers in Switzerland, meaning that every time the archivist or client used this search tool, a query was sent to their servers and returned appropriate results to our database. This was a service with a monthly fee based on the number of documents used in the queries. And for government institutions such as the National Archives of Latvia with a fixed budget each year, this poses a great challenge, because it would mean that with every coming year, with more and more documents being added to the queries, it would be necessary to find additional funding to cover the growing monthly fee. We were very interested and also impressed in comparing the Latvian audio and video transcription tool to two free open access speech-to-text tools developed by Latvian government institutions. I have to say that the Latvian language is very different from others, and as a result of historical events, a single archival document might contain text in Latvian, German, and Russian. This linguistic diversity poses additional challenges for speech recognition tools, which must accurately recognize and interpret multiple languages and dialects within the single document. For testing, we used 3 documents: Radio Free Europe broadcast with spoken text in Latvian, Newsreel Soviet Latvia with spoken text in Latvian and Russian, and Newsreel Ostland Vohje with spoken text in Latvian and German. As we can see, the Archipenian audio and video transcription tool delivers quite acceptable results. And despite still needing to correct errors, a positive aspect worth highlighting is that the transcribed text is automatically embedded in the video file. So this is the on-site transcription, and there is no need to issue a separate SRT file to synchronize with the original document. It also successfully translates text in Russian and German, while, for example, Lāce transcription results show translations in English, and Russian text is transcribed with Latin letters using words that phonetically resemble Latvian. These unfortunate experiences led us to thinking that perhaps the solution was to develop a custom AI tool for describing and transcribing documents, as well as an image search tool and facial recognition program that would run on the archive servers and would be trained by using the Latvian audiovisual document collections. Currently, it has led to the development of the multimodal similarity search prototype for photo documents. And the prototype of the search tool was developed using open source tools such as DeepFace and Meta deep learning models to generate a vector database. This multimodal approach means each vector set contains a metadata payload, allowing for future filtering of search results. Additionally, this approach can be expanded to include video materials in the vector database. Test results have been mixed, with the main challenge being false positives in person or image similarity searches, and to enhance the accuracy of search results from 80 to 95%, advanced result refinement techniques need to be implemented. The tool is designed to search through all digital copies of the photo archive, comprising approximately 276,000 TIFF files. These are files from the archive's old access database, which is no longer in use but has retained content metadata linked to the images, allowing for year-based filtering. It's important to note that digital copies of these images were created over 10 years ago, and due to the scanning equipment used at the time, many of them are in low quality, which affects the search results. This is the main page of multimodal similarity search prototype, highlighting key features that I will explain in detail. So here we have image selection and grab function, possibility to choose search type by face or whole image, similarity threshold that serves as an intelligent filter in the image search system. So during the search process, the system calculates a similarity score between 0 and 1 for each image comparison, where lower scores indicate a stronger match between images. Setting a lower threshold creates more strict matching criteria for highly similar images, while a higher threshold opens the results to include more varied matches. To refine results, it is possible to set the search limit and the filter by year, and after pressing the button search, all the search results appears with the content metadata for each photo document, including score from similarity threshold. So now I will demonstrate a short pre-recorded demonstration of the multimodal similarity search prototype. We start by selecting a photo of the Latvian writer Rainis. For the search type, we choose face. We set the similarity threshold to 2 to get more results. Apply year filtering, and use a grab function for better accuracy. And then we press search button. So here we can see all the results with the corresponding metadata and scores based on the similarity threshold. And you will see that system search not only through portraits, but also through group photos where he appears. We can do the same with Prime Minister of Latvia, Kārlis Ulmanis. We use a graph function, filter by year. And set search limit to 150. And here you can see all results with him in the photos. Interesting is that his face is also found in documents where he appears on the posters, like this one. If you want to find a small part of an image, such as in this case, the order of 3 stars pinned to Kārlis Ulmanis clothing, we use the graph function and select whole image for the search type. Here we see not only images of the order of 3 stars, but also objects that are completely different and unrelated, yet similar in their shape. And demonstrating the search capabilities within the whole image search type, we start with an image featuring train. The program automatically identifies the main element in the image, in this case train, and displays corresponding the results. And this is the same photo used for the search, and we can see that the score based on the similarity threshold is 0.1. The search results also include other vehicles similar to the trains, such as the trams. But if you need to find the image of trains in an unindexed document collection, this is one way to do it. Here is a picture of Riga Old City with its main elements: St. Peter's Church Tower, Daugava River, and the Rival Bridge, and the typical roof lines. These elements, as you can see, also appears in these search results from a very different angles. In this image, the main element is smoke. And as you can see, program correctly identifies it and shows all the pictures where the smoke is visible. But for example, in this picture, there isn't any smoke, but the poor quality of the copy causes the program to mistakenly identify clouds as a smoke. And this type of search is valuable when clients such as those from the film industry approach us to find documents that describe border scenes rather than specific individuals or events. And here you can see an example of a photo featuring typical Soviet era architecture. And this time we will set the similarity threshold to 1, aiming for results as close as possible to the searched image. And we can see 5 images that very well represent Soviet era's architecture. If we change the similarity threshold to 0, our program does not produce any results. And however, if we set it to 2, then it provides many such images. And in this case, it can be very useful for researchers studying the history of architecture in Latvia if they want to use undescribed collections that hasn't been submitted into archives database. During my presentation, I believe it's quite clear that the challenges we face in testing and attempting to integrate various AI tools in the archive database, as well as developing our own, are many. And these are not challenges that are easily to overcome, especially not for an archive as small scale as Latvian State Archive of Audiovisual Documents. And these challenges include a lack of human and financial resources, as well as limited expertise in AI tool development and implementation. The archive staff primarily have a humanities background, meaning that any tool developed requires additional costs for outsourcing and maintenance, and that means that the product ultimately belongs not to the archive itself, but to the developer. It is also a lack of national level strategy for developing AI tools for cultural institutions and document content that has been shaped by Latvia's history and distinct language. And to realize our goals, we need to use every opportunity to expand international collaboration, continue experiments to best understand which AI solution most closely meets our archive's needs, and of course, secure funding. And this is something necessary for all of us, as I believe only few institutions can cover the cost associated with such projects from their own budgets. And I would like to conclude my presentation today with a phrase that introduced the theme of this webinar. And indeed, how do we do that? I believe the discussion that will follow might offer us some insight in the discussion and maybe even some answers. And if you have any questions, thoughts, or opinions on the topic discussed in my presentation or the collections of the archives or a public database, please feel free to contact me. And if you would like to visit Archive database directly, you can scan the QR code and explore Latvian history through our documents. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you, Natālija. I think that you raise really a lot of interesting questions, and these our experiences might be maybe similar to others, other experiences. So yeah, I will just remind you that if you have any questions, we already have some questions. Thank you, but please put all the questions in the Q&A box. And if you have any comments, then please use the chat. Okay, so let's start the discussion then. And of course, naturally, after Natālija shared our experience here in Latvia, I am very interested in the experiences of our nearest neighbors in Lithuania and Estonia. Do you have had similar experiences in your archives or similar needs that you hope in future might be solved by appropriate AI tools? What is the situation? Jole, maybe you can start and tell about Lithuanian experiences.
Yes, thank you. And thank you, Natālija, for a very wonderful presentation. I was excited because you are doing a lot of work and you are in front of us, of course, because we in Lithuanian Central State Archive, it's only the beginning of our long story because we started to use AI tools only recently. It's only the beginning. And I can say that I can talk about only one kind of AI tool. It is implemented in our website ARCAM-net. It is the tool for transcription and subtitling. It is not itself not fully AI tool as we now understand it, but it can be called as AI tool. And during the modernization of our website, the project ended by the beginning of 2022. The open source software Semantica, which was created by specialists of Vytautas Magnus University in Kaunas, was used to make the two OSIS, in English it's AIR, for the transcription and subtitling, and this was made by the developers of our database. The transcription of speech is saved as a text file in our servers, and then from where the subtitles are added to the film. But this tool has a lot of problems, as we now see, and the main problem is the quality of the transcription and subtitles, of course, because the quality of transcription depends on the quality of the speech. It does everything almost correctly if someone speaks to microphone, or there is a speech of announcer, for example, in newsreels. So I can say that speech should be quite clear and loud to get very correct transcription and, of course, subtitles. In other cases, the tool produces a lot of mistakes, and we can see in subtitles a lot of mistakes, and even don't transcribe the speech. And we have the solution for it. We can open the text file and correct these mistakes, but it takes time, of course. But we use this tool especially for subtitling, because we need to have subtitles for people who can't hear. And also, one of my colleagues who works with sound recordings description started to use TurboScribe, this tool. It transcribes all the speech to text file, and then she can make descriptions. And she is very happy with this tool. I asked her, she's very excited and she's very happy. So, but now we are thinking of implementing some other tools, because I think it's the future of our. And as we get some money for development of ARCAM-net system and for new functionalities, so we are hoping to do it in the future also. And we also have the national project e-Cultura, e-Culture, which started last year and will be finished in 2 years. So it is financed from European Union fundings. It is kind of unique digital space for Lithuanian cultural heritage for a lot of memory institutions. Maybe you know this space, and our archive is a partner in this project. And now one of the main tasks of this project is to include more and more audiovisual heritage to this digital space. And last Friday we had a discussion with project specialists who are responsible for AI tools part, kind of nice, interesting discussions. So the idea is to take some amount of already available AI tools, to use them for audiovisual material of partners, to analyze good and bad things, and to suggest some of tools for use in the future for Lithuanian memory institutions. So we will see how it works next year.
Hey, that's sounds fantastic. So it sounds like, how about maybe a few words about the financing? So it sounds like your institution or government, Lithuanian government, recognizes the need for investing in this sort of development strategically for the future.
It is not exactly strategically for AI tools, but for development, for new things, for new functionalities. And as we think that these tools are very important for us, so we will try to do.
Nice. Understood. So, could you add about Estonian experience? We always look to Estonia as the country who is forward in all new technology aspects, because you really started to work on it already in the 90s. So, what's the situation in AI field in Estonia now in regards to archives?
Yes, hello. Happy to be here with you. Thanks for the presentation. I guess it's hard to speak on behalf of all of the member institutions of Estonia, but yeah, I kind of try to sum it up. We have had different tests on image recognition, on photographs, on video, on film materials. A couple of years ago, we had this kind of large-scale photo digitization project in Estonia, which I was ahead of. And the company which did the digitization, called Digital Transitions from the United States, did like a test run with approximately 100,000 images. And the results were quite good. People were identified from blurry images, for example. And with this 100,000 sample size, we were able to kind of to see different results from from different institutions in Estonia. Then we had this kind of video recognition, film recognition test, which Mila was part of as well, with Tallinn University, which gave us pretty good results as well. It was very interesting to see like different clusters of film frames that were similar, so you could connect different films together with different topics. And then on the text side, we have different tests as well, which I can't really elaborate on further because I haven't been a part of it. But one of the softwares that was used was Transcribus, which I don't really know about. And then this year I ran a couple of tests with OpenAI's Whisper software to test Radio Free Europe text-to-speech. These results were, I guess they're getting better, but still Estonian language models aren't quite sophisticated with these large-scale AI models. And then we were approached by OpenAI this spring in order to do a test with them. But this project, we weren't able to continue with this project because many questions arose about copyright issues. Like we don't. It would be easy to give out film materials that have expired copyright, but recent materials, it's very difficult to give out, of course, because of copyright. And we think it's more of a higher level policy decision whether to give out our data to different companies or not. So I guess we have tested different softwares, different algorithms. We have gotten some good results out of them, but we have failed to implement these results because we don't have the resources from the IT to implement these results to our databases. So I guess we're just kind of taking a very cautious position with AI right now because it has different biases towards Estonian language, towards Estonian culture. So we're just having this kind of wait and see moment because I believe these big visual models are being developed right now, and in a couple of years, very complex algorithms will be available via open source better than right now. So it's interesting to hear other people's experiences, and then we are kind of preparing our workflows towards AI, but nothing concrete that I can tell you about right now.
Thank you. Yeah, it makes sense to have this cautious position, I think, as of yet. But now I would like to ask Mila and Matthias to join our conversation as they have lots more experience, I think, with international projects as well. So can you share your experiences working with AI in projects and research, and maybe also the challenges that Natālija and others described, are they typical of these projects at the moment, or have you maybe already found a way to overcome the issues of like false positives or other types of typical mistakes or typical issues with AI tools? So Mila, would you like to start?
Sure, yes. Yeah, so kind of like my perspective here to these questions is, of course, from the user's perspective as a historian interested in using digitized collections to understand history and especially long-term developments. So there, of course, different metadata features and possibilities to recognize certain objects and images, it's very helpful. And in my own research, we are currently, together with my colleagues, we are, for instance, testing different large language models to identify known political figures. Particularly now I'm working with Soviet newsreels. And it's quite interesting that we are also encountering these problems of false positives and trying to now also kind of like work towards pipelines that would kind of like, you know, provide more reliable results. I have been also using these clip models, mostly testing them to identify certain kinds of like genres or visual topics emerging also in newsreel data. So it's quite interesting that we could see kind of like different genres going up and down with the help of this. But this is, of course, like always when using these computational methods, you get certain kinds of results, and then you need to verify and to use quite a lot of time to actually polish the data and test what are the results actually meaning. And especially if you are working with historical materials like we all are, and as we know that many of the test data sets and things like that are done by using contemporary materials. So if I'm interested in detecting old car models, I will not necessarily be able to identify them as easily as kind of like newer ones, or also using this. I have been also thinking about these speech-to-text transcriptions, and here, of course, working with historical materials using historical language as well is kind of like, so it's not, we are not able to use tools that kind of like just off the shelf. I was really interested in Natālija's presentation, and especially these similarities, because as Aab also mentioned earlier, I have been also working with you know, testing these similarities as well by myself. I have been using this tool called Collection Space Navigator, which is an open source free tool developed by colleagues at Tallinn University, actually, which allows to kind of like use this multidimensional vector embedding. So basically it kind of like creates a map of all the visual data that is there, and it's possible to zoom in and out and look at the different projections. So it has been very interesting tool for me, especially as I have been interested in looking at these kinds of like visual discourses. So not necessarily as a scholar, when you start to do research on a topic, you don't necessarily have a clear goal in your mind that I'm interested in certain kind of architecture or other tools, but I'm kind of like just interested in seeing what the collection consists of, in order to then, if I see something interesting, then I can dig deeper into that. So I found this collection space navigator very useful for just first looking at what kinds of kind of like clusters of similar images there are, and then kind of like, of course, asking questions based on that. Well, maybe final point. Yeah, I also, as a scholar, recognize this kind of like, you know, difficulty of funding and these kinds of things. I think that that's you know, in all sides, in all parts, is quite you know, quite wide. I have just now in the process of establishing this ARCAM-net, which is a kind of like network for advanced study of computational study of audiovisual materials, together with colleagues from King's College and Amsterdam University, where we are actually kind of like, we want to work with archives and also with scholars, companies to jointly develop these kinds of like, to address different problems and to hopefully to develop certain kind of like results as well to these problems. So, but it's, of course, it's a long way. Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that it's very important to think about how we can put together our forces, power, so to say. So otherwise, the big technological giants will be the ones taking over these things completely. I feel like that. I will have a question on that a bit later. But Matthias, thank you for your patience. Please share your experience working at Meemoo, which is such a wonderful organization, I feel like.
Okay, thanks. So maybe I'll try to briefly sketch where we are now and how we got there. I think it resonates a lot with the presentation Natālija did, which is we also started off with AI seeing a huge potential, because at Meemoo we are, you know, archiving lots and lots of material, and the problems are similar. There's simply not enough human time available to describe it properly and to make it usable again, or to make it usable for other audiences. So we started off with a number of, let's say, smaller scale projects where we tried to understand what is possible, understand what the potential quality of certain models is, whether or not we have to manually verify the quality of the results. And leaping from that knowledge, we've been able to learn how you build such a workflow and learn how you can do this in a larger scale. Also, it allowed us to, for instance, when we did projects around face recognition, to talk about privacy and ethical issues that come with, you know, processing human data, processing faces of humans. So that led us to build up some understanding of how this space works, what is possible, what is not possible. What we then were able to do was create a more larger scale project where we processed audiovisual material, so audio and video, on like 170,000 hours of material. And what we did there was a mix of a lot of things. So maybe as a general idea, I think that this resonates maybe a little bit with what Aap was talking about. We are in a way cautious. We try not to be on the bleeding edge of the technology, but rather, you know, see what happens technologically, see how things evolve, and maybe prefer to wait or research a little bit longer until we really adopt this on a larger scale. Because in our opinion, it's just a matter of time. And as you see how fast these models are evolving, it's a matter of time because before these kind of technologies become a commodity and become affordable or become available in open source. So that's a similar approach that we did in this project. So we did speech recognition, which is more or less established. I'm not going to say it's perfect. It does have limitations, similar to what we heard. If you have Flemish is also not widely spoken globally, so it's not the most popular language to train a tool on. But then we found that even commercially available models, because we benchmarked them using just a cross section of the material that we wanted to process, are not that bad, you know. So in some cases, if you have, for instance, a lot of the archive consists of broadcast quality material where people speak proper Flemish and not a dialect with a lot of background noise and this and that, then in that case, you'll get great results. The opposite is also true if I switch language mid-sentence, or if I am interrupted, or many people speak at the same time, it becomes garbage. So so that's one thing. But yeah, we found that the quality is okay and really helps us forward in making it searchable. We're also now working on these transcriptions to try to split between the good ones and the bad ones, which is typically something that a model would do for you. Like it would say, I'm pretty certain that this word is right. But what we found is that the correlation between what the model thinks it's producing and the actual accuracy is not always great. In some cases it is. But then you can use so we're now investigating, but this is a follow-up project basically, where we try to evaluate the grammatical quality of a sentence and try to establish from there whether or not this transcription is accurate. So that's one thing. These speech to text and even the named entity recognition that we did is stuff that we bought. So really we looked at the market, we compared open source models to the commercially available ones, and we actually bought it as a service. So simply sending the material to a service and then getting transcripts back. We also have a similar, we did a similar approach for face recognition, try to see what's available on the market, but there we found that what we wanted to do, which is very similar to what Natālija was presenting, which is creating a really large database of vectors of all the faces in the video and then try to search through it, is, not available or not affordable at this moment commercially. Plus, there's a lot of, again, privacy issues. You are dealing with biometrical data, maybe something you don't just want to send to any commercial IT company. So that was built in-house. So what we did there was investigate what open source models are there, and can we use them to establish our goals, which ended up working very nicely. I think of all technologies that we're currently using, face recognition is one of the best. It's really almost flawless up until now. So yeah, that's maybe where we are at this moment. And following up on that, we are investigating new technologies like using the same face recognition on photographs, trying to work on audio files based on the sound of someone's voice. So there's a fingerprint to a voice that can be used to identify a person. And we have a little bit of experience, or are stepping into the field, I should say, of large language models to really generate summaries or generate content from all the data that has been created.
Right, right. Okay, thank you. So, Natālija, do you have anything to add, listening to the colleagues from other places? Any comment?
Well, I think that we are all on the same page with all the same problems. So that's one thing that is common for all of us. I'm very interested in specifically these language transcriptions because, as Mila and Matthias said, we have very similar problems, and if we had the possibility to search a certain person from its voice, it will have a huge impact on how we describe our sound documents. It will become so much more easier because we don't have to search in recordings and books this historical background of these sound documents. That would become very easy, and it would be very helpful for our researchers. So that's something I would like to test and see in our archive as well.
So, anybody else wants to add something?
So maybe I have a question about it.
Yeah.
Do any of you know any legislation or policy approaches in your countries towards AI and that might affect archives?
That's a very good question. So, anyone? Do you, maybe in general, I could add, do you think that it should be something like the AI laws regarding laws and regulations regarding AI should be maybe created in? Should it be created by government in a national basis, or maybe it should be on global level, or at least European Union level?
Yeah, this is of course a huge question, and unfortunately I don't have an answer to all of these questions. But I just know that in Finland, particularly now, the GLAM sector is having this discussion exactly as you mentioned, kind of like how can we kind of like is it possible to upload our cultural heritage to these large companies? What are the implications? And particularly, of course, these copyright issues are under heated discussion right now. And I think that well, in general, I think that this is a global issue, and it's not an easy question because there are, of course, cultural heritage, which is kind of like should be owned by everybody. And then there are, of course, then large companies that are on the one hand providing some important results, but then there are, of course, these monetary questions, ethical questions, and privacy questions. But then I think also what we haven't addressed yet, that also is part of this discussion, is that particularly with smaller languages and smaller countries, currently there is this discrepancy between overall data sets used for training, and it's kind of like heavily skewed towards West European and English languages. So at the same time, would it be also from certain perspective important to provide our data to kind of like balance it? But these are, very difficult questions, and I have maybe more questions than answers to these. But this is kind of like what the discussion is currently going on in Finland, at least.
Sure, and of course there are two sides. Also, one is using archival data and being and respecting the copyright of authors that created this data, but also respecting the rights of the people who appear in these videos and photos. And how do we balance all these sides? Of course, right?
Maybe if I can add, because we were also we also had big discussions on this when we decided to allow a commercial company to process the audio just to provide transcripts, and we actually made use of elements of the GDPR to really really be very, very strict about what the company can and cannot do with the data that we send. So what we did, because we have to comply to the European procurement rules, is even before we sign a contract with you, we require that, well, we really line what you can and cannot do, and this is a hard requirement. And if you can't comply with it, you won't be chosen, you won't be awarded the contract. So because at that moment, your negotiation position is really good because you haven't bought it yet. So if they want to sell it to you, then they have to comply with your rules. And that has helped us a lot in, you know, just being really on a legal level sure that this data is only used for creating a transcript and then it's being sent back, and no other training helps is being done at any point. So I think that's very important to realize early on in the process and not while you are processing. So in that case, GDPR really helps.
Yeah, I definitely agree. So the question is, for us, the small archives with maybe small financial means, so how can we, so to say, remain very how can we remain that we should believe in ourselves and in the how much our data is important and worth, and in a way believe in our self-worth and push these hard restrictions, because we are, after all, safeguarding our national cultural heritage, right? So but if I may play maybe a little bit of devil's advocate at the moment, because like about 2 weeks ago, we heard very interesting news in Latvia, because our Minister for Economy, he announced that he has met with representatives from Meta, so the parent company of Facebook, etc. So and that they were discussing the possibility of opening an AI excellence center in Latvia. So that would be, if that happens, that will be like first such center in Europe. And the minister has said that he believes that this will be a driving force for technological development in Latvia and in Europe, and this will be good for both public institutions and private companies, where both public institutions and private companies can turn for advice in this center. So collaborate. So do you think that is there a safe way to collaborate with these huge technological giants while we still keep this control of our heritage and so that we are setting the rules rather than maybe some American company?
Well, I can start. I have my doubts that cultural sector will be the main user of this center of intelligence, but maybe, who knows, it will be great if it would be so. But regarding this issue of copyrights and ethical issues, maybe we can solve it by not buying these tools from external providers, but build these databases in our archives and try to focus on expanding our knowledge and add more specialists to our teams to make this possible. So it would exclude all these difficulties about authors' rights and challenges, and we wouldn't be depending on these big technological giants like Meta.
I also agree with Natālija that we can talk and discuss these questions with our local tech developers, because I think we in Baltic states have a lot of IT specialists and they are interested in these questions. So we can talk to them and they can provide us these tools also. It will be our product of Lithuania or Latvia or Estonia, not world, not big companies, but our product, local product. It will be more, I think it will be more easier to deal with these problems with copyright and ethical and so on.
So, but do you think that it would be possible to find a common solution so that our issues, for example, copyright, are similar enough so that we could find a common ground and common solution, for example, for the 3 Baltic states?
I think we should start in our countries first of all, and then talk between us.
Okay.
Let's start with local people, local tech developers and so on, and then think internationally after this.
Okay, yeah. So I think also maybe Mila, do you want to add anything about the ARCAM-net initiative? Because I think it's something, as you already mentioned, works toward the collaboration and
yeah, of course. Yeah, as I mentioned, we are now in the process of establishing this ARCAM-net, and it's kind of like at the very initial stage. We have just submitted a funding proposal, but regardless of the results, we are planning to now gradually launch some kinds of like network activities. And the actual idea of this network is to bring people and different institutions together to exactly identify these kind of like issues that are common to many of us, and perhaps to how could we address them all together. So we are also so kind of like we want to collaborate, of course, with GLAM sector, with scholars from different disciplines, from computer science and with film scholars and historians. But also we are involving some kind of like small scale industries and non-governmental organizations and such. So this is kind of like the aim. So yeah, if anyone is interested in joining, just please let me know, and I will include you there. Because I think that what is the overall idea with this network is that I don't think that we can turn the clock back, so that kind of like not to do anything with AI, because it is already there, and if we don't do anything with that, then somebody else will do it. So I think that it is also kind of like it is important for us to be part of these conversations, and simultaneously, of course, not too naively, we need to protect the kind of like cultural heritage, but kind of like I think that there is room and necessity for cultural heritage institutions to take part in this. And in general, I think that, too often we also, as kind of like humanists, we think that culture is something kind of like superfluous or not important. While I actually think that culture is an understanding, kind of like culture is crucial for all the very important contemporary problems, and kind of like, so that's why I think that there is something that we should kind of like join our forces and get involved and see how things will develop in that ways.
Definitely, thank you. I think that you put it very well, that we cannot turn back the time and we have to be part of it now, and let's see what we can do all together to have the best possible situation for our data and our heritage in this world of artificial intelligence. Okay, so if there is nothing that somebody wants to still add, then we can maybe turn and quickly run through the questions, because we are quickly also running out of time. Yeah, anyone? Yeah. Okay. So here are some questions. Some are quick ones. So Philip says, "Fantastic! It's for Natālija. So fantastic about our tool. Are you running it on premise, and what kind of hardware are you using to make it this quick, the photo recognition tool?"
Well, it is funny because this prototype is running only on its developer's computer. We don't have resources and like inner system to put it on our servers. So it's just a prototype. It's at the beginning of its developing, and we are still working on it, and we'll see how it goes.
Okay, so the next question by Elizabeth. Can the AI also detect background noise and describe it? I don't know who is going to take this.
We are trying to figure it out. Oh, sorry. Go.
Yeah, in our case, it is only just transcribes only speech, not other noises, only speech of people, only language.
Okay.
Yeah, and we are now trying to find models that are able to do just that. So distinguish between speech and music, for instance, because it's very useful for repurposing, because music is typically has copyright on it, and typically speech will be easier.
Sure. And also, Jole, can I ask you maybe write in the chat the tools that you mentioned, because it was a bit difficult to hear, and somebody would like to know which tools you are using at your archive.
Okay, I will write.
Yeah, thank you. So maybe a little bit of wider question. So how do you think, what are the biggest obstacles to build these AI tools? Who is ready to delve into more philosophical territory?
I think from the archive side, I think it's technical literacy, because the archivists are getting more and more knowledgeable about AI and its possibilities. But I think the education side is important here as well. Need to be aware what kind of functions are they capable, and how can they really help the archivists. And I think it kind of lands on people like us to communicate it well towards our archivists.
Yeah, thank you.
Maybe I can just briefly add, I think that there is also, at least from the side of researchers, there is this access to hardware that, especially if you're working with large-scale audiovisual materials, hardware can be a bottleneck. And on the other side, if you are creating these tools, sustainability, if you build a tool, then how will you maintain it if you are kind of like, if you don't have funding for doing that?
Sure. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so then there's a question from Margot who asks, do you concentrate mainly on official audiovisual materials, or do you incorporate private audiovisual materials from your film industry, YouTube, TikTok, etc. in the work that you do? So I guess it's depends on archive, right? What sort of collections we have, we work with that. For example, in Latvia, in our collection, we have like the older newsreels, we have films, we have also amateur home movies from the bygone era of analog filmmaking. So, Natālija, do you want to add?
Yes, it depends on what we see as official. So we have also films from private studios, and as you mentioned, we have these amateur films that are actually like home movies from the 1970s on the film tape. But we store only documents that are valuable for our society in cultural or historical meaning. So at this point, we don't use materials from YouTube and TikTok and other platforms. And I have my doubts that we will take them as a part of archives collection in future, but who knows how it will be after 30 years. So we will see.
Okay, yeah. So a question for Matthias. Are you using another tool on top of Whisper for the speaker recognition?
Yeah, for the speaker recognition, so to determine who's speaking based on the nature of the voice, we are currently looking at a tool called an open source model called Pionote. But I can maybe put it in the chat afterwards. Which appears, this is still ongoing. This is not in production yet, but it appears that it's working pretty well, better than we expected. Actually, for the transcripts itself, we are not using Whisper because it benchmarked a little lower than the commercial solution that we're using now, and the commercial one is Speechmatics, which is quite broadly used in a broadcast context, I believe.
Yeah, thank you. Then we have a question of, well, this conversation is mostly about audiovisual and photo documents, but there's also a question of if you have any experiences in using AI to transcribe manuscripts handwriting. So anybody wants to comment on that? Okay, so we'll answer the person who is asking this later over an email. Okay, so another important question, I think this goes to all. What role do data standards play in designing workflows for applying machine learning and AI to image processing? Is IIF relevant? IIF. Natālija?
Well, I think this is not a question for me because I'm not a technical person, and I actually have to admit that I don't know what IIF means. So maybe Matthias can comment.
I know maybe a little. Well, I think data standards help as they always do, especially after the metadata has been created. We will typically look at a standard to save the output in a standardized way. So that's one thing. So that's a big role there. I think it happens after the workflow. If IIIF, I don't think IIIF, well, it can be part of IIIF is used to basically well, standardize the way pictures are being shared on the internet. and has also functions to display metadata and even provide annotations on that metadata. So it can be one element in a workflow to describe pictures. It could be useful, but IIIF in itself is not an AI tool. It's a way of showing a picture and showing that metadata and allowing discussion on that picture. But for instance, in a crowdsourcing environment, it could be useful.
So yeah, I will remind that if you have any questions, you can write to us later also to natālija.lāce@archivi.gov.lv, because then we will have more time to answer, and I can also suggest another person to contact with your question. So unfortunately, we are really now short on time, so this will be the last question. And thank you everybody for the questions. Yeah, as I said, if you have any more questions, feel free to contact us anytime. We'll be happy to answer to our best of our ability. So, so the last question that I wanted to ask. Let me know. It just disappeared, but I can. Okay, I found it. So the last question that I want to ask is: can the AI recognize the area period of history based on local dialects or context talked about? I think that's a very interesting question for the future researchers who will be working on the documents from maybe Soviet era, Latvia, or Lithuania, or Flemish or Belgium in the 70s or 80s or any other times. Okay, so
I don't know.
Is it possible to train AIs in this way or not yet? Do you think?
I think it sounds like something maybe a very large model could do potentially, probably. As you see it evolve so quickly, I think it's a matter of time before it happens.
Right.
But it's a really complex problem, huh? Because context, I mean, you need a lot in your head to be able to sketch context about things. But never say never. But to my knowledge, at this moment, there's nothing that does it yet. But I'm not an expert here.
Yeah, I think that Mila would like to add something.
No, I think this is a very interesting question, and if there is such thing, I would love to use it. So, but I don't know of any of these, and I think that this would require nevertheless, some training, and kind of like, of course, then it is difficult to pinpoint, of course, the contextual factors so that would require quite a substantial amount of thinking as well. But I love this idea, and I think that probably, hopefully, at some point in the future, who knows?
Yeah, that would be great help to researchers, right, who have not experience with the time they are researching. I think so. Deep, heartfelt thanks to everybody who joined us, to all of you participants. I think that we, as we can conclude that there are still many problems, but it's good that we all recognize the same problems in a way, so then we can work together to solve them in the future. And I would finally like to invite David Iglesias French from the PAAG group to say the final words to our webinar. Yeah, David.
Okay, Sanita, thank you, and hello everybody, and thank you to all of the panelists, because this session has been really interesting, because we are in this moment of transformation of our institutions. The digital transformation is what we are living now, and AI is crucial. It's probably it has the main role in this transformation. So we have this challenge. We need to face this, and Tepper said something interesting. We are in this moment of wait and see. but I will modify a little bit, and we are in the moment of test and see, because we know we need this experience, is what you have explained. And yes, we'll see how this develops. We are always, we depends always on the industry, and we are a bit lobby and have not much influence on all these transformation. When I say we, I mean cultural heritage institutions. But anyway, I think we learn from all your experiences. The presentation of Natálija was really very inspiring. And okay, that was a very good point and a very good event, because this is what I wanted to say, that yesterday was the 27 October, was the World Day of Audiovisual Heritage. And this is the reason why ICA organized this event, led by the State Archives of Latvia, of course. And the reason for this day, that now is transformed in a long week, is that is celebrated since 2005, is that UNESCO decided that he wanted to raise awareness of the importance of the preservation of audiovisual heritage. And this movement is led by CCAA, the Coordinating Council on Audiovisual Archives, on behalf of UNESCO, of course. And CCAA includes all the organizations that are focused on audiovisual. And this is AMIA, IVLA, FIAT, FOCAL, SEAPAVA, ARCS, and ICA. ICA Archives has a lot of collections, and of course we are responsible of this legacy, and we are also very focused on audiovisual. And the ones that are responsible in ICA are PAAG, that is the expert group of photography and audiovisual, and Natálija here and Victoria are members of the steering committee. So on behalf of PAAG on ICA, thank you to all of the attendees that have attended this event. And I wish you all a happy World Day Audiovisual Week.